I just realized I'm about to record a Heated Rivalry review at my parents' house. Let's do it. Hello guys and welcome back. Today I wanted to review episode 5 of Heated Rivalry. A week ago I went through episodes 1 through 4, gave out my full thoughts on the show so far, and I was gonna wait to just do an episode 5 and 6 review, but this episode was so interesting to me that I just had to get on the mic. First things first, thank you to everyone who left a comment on the last Heated Rivalry review. I wasn't really too sure how much value I'd be bringing to the table with that video, but it was so heartwarming to see how much it touched all of you guys. In the end, I just wanted to yap about a show that I've come to enjoy and continue to enjoy, because episode 5, folks, is just continuing on with the momentum. When you break down the first 2 episodes and episode 4 of this show, Shane and Eilya's relationship was really hot and cold. It was all over the place. One moment they were together all the time, and then the other, they weren't texting for 6 months. But what episode 4 was kind of hinting towards is that we would see a floodgates opening type of moment where they would actually start to communicate with each other, which is something that I was desperately wanting to see, because as much as what we saw previously was good, a lot of it was set up, and now we're getting the payoff here in episode 5. For my friend Allie, who's read the books and knows what's happening, she let me know that episode 5 would be a doozy, and it certainly was. To start things off, the first few minutes of this episode are absolutely gut-wrenching, as we see the continuation of Shane and Rose Landry's relationship that was started in episode 4. Now, even though Shane and Rose's relationship was such a great point of drama for Shane and Elia, I am kind of glad it was a bit short-lived, because realistically, this wasn't gonna work. And the first few minutes of this episode are pointing directly towards that, as Rose basically takes him out on a date to basically tell him that, yeah, I know something's up, big dog. Literally, the first note I wrote down when I was watching this episode is it is so weird to see Shane with a woman, because it's just not happening for him. And I love how Rose, in a very respectful way, just goes into this conversation very pointed and knowing exactly what she wants to say, breaking it down with the suspicions, and especially once Shane actually comes out to her, the first time Shane's come out to anybody besides Elia, she is fully there to support it. But this scene is really a good example of what I love about this show so much, is how sincere everything feels. Nothing really feels cheap or for shock value or anything like that. It all feels just so loving. And this scene is a great example of that, because Rose is so loving and so accepting of who Shane is, even though this relationship is ending because of it. But it's such a turning point for Shane's character, because before this, he had nobody to talk to. Even Elia, who he's doing everything with, they're not really communicating in the most massive way. They did have a pretty good conversation at Elia's place in episode 4, but it was kind of a slow burn. It was a few things talked about, but not a ton. It was more so about family and everything. But this is the first time that Shane has somebody to really talk to about who he is, and you could see how important that is for him. Shane, by design, is not a very emotional person, so the fact that he's even tearing up just a little bit is enough to see how hard this situation is for him, but a fantastic performance by Hudson Williams in this episode, and really the last couple of episodes. But with that, Shane's character is changed completely, and now the rest of the episode focuses on really the communication that should have been there from the beginning. Heading into the section that focuses on the 2017 All-Star Game, I thought this had some excellent moments. For one, Shane and Elia getting to play on the same line, and Elia having to default to the wing. That was pretty funny. And also when they help each other score too, Elia comes and kisses Shane helmet, which isn't even that far-fetched for hockey. That happens all the time, so I love to see that here. You have the pool bar scene where they're both just together, surrounded by a bunch of people, and I think in the past, Shane might have wilted a bit in that situation, felt a lot more uncomfortable, but now he's fully ready to just have these conversations with Elia, no matter the situation. There's some really good banter in this section about Shane hiring a stylist, about Elia's beach clothes, and just some really good things that further the chemistry along. Also, gotta shout out the section where Shane and Elia are by the pool. Elia's in the water, just fighting with a bunch of kids, trying to win and compete against them. I feel like Elia would be the best uncle of all time. Kinda jealous. Also, I'm sure Shane seeing that Elia's great with kids definitely helped things a bit. Now, before we keep going, let's talk about today's sponsor in Polymarket. You've actually probably heard of them if you're a hockey fan. A couple months ago, they partnered up as the official prediction market partner of the NHL. With Polymarket, you can trade during live games or in the future. On this game, on the 30th, you got the Islanders versus Blackhawks. The Blackhawks have a 42% chance of winning. Let's say you put $5 down on Chicago at 42%. They start to play well to start out that game, and it goes up to 50. You can trade immediately and lock that price in. With Polymarket, they let you trade in and out no matter the point in the game and no matter how the momentum is shifting. And the best part is that their fees are only 1 cent. Play market is legal in all 50 US states, and the best part is they're giving out $10 free just for signing up with no deposit required. To get exclusive free access and a free $10 in the app, just hit the description link down below, and when you sign up, use promo code GRAV to get started today. They just keep inching closer and closer to that big conversation as they're both alone on the sand at the beach, overlooking the sunset. I mean, just pure rom-com vibes here. After that, they get into the same hotel room together, and I was kind of expecting this to kind of be the point where everything would just open up completely, and that's what it seemed to happen here. I don't think it was ever going to be the type of scenes we saw earlier in the show, just because the moment didn't really call for it. We know that these two guys can do that together, but now it's about actually opening up with each other, and this was such a, again, opening the floodgates moment. Shane finally coming to terms with his sexuality and letting that be known to Ilya what he actually wants. He doesn't just want this to be a fling or some weird relationship thing. He wants to be solidified. He actually has those feelings of long-term relationship with him, and that being opened up does scare Ilya a bit, but they're able to come together, be emotional with each other, actually be able to console each other too with all the issues going around them. It's the emotional details in this show that get me, like Ilya starting to cry as he looks away, Shane just bear hugging him to try to make him feel better. It's just really heartwarming stuff. But with this conversation, they are finally communicating in a way that's healthy and sustainable and safe, and I have been waiting, I have been searching, I have been hoping for this for such a long time, and it is here. Again, we kind of knew that this was going to be the eventuality, but I'm still glad that it happened here because it just made so much sense. We've already seen how much they've been disgruntled at each other, disgruntled at life, and I think it was the time now to just truly bond with that and not just be weird people that just see each other every 6 months and call it a day. They deserved a little bit more than that with the chemistry they had, and it was just fun to see that actually come to fruition. But we can't have nice things because after this and after playing a game together, we start to get into the real emotional heartbreak of this episode. One of the things that's intriguing me about this show the most is Ilya and his Russian background, not just with the politics, but also his family and how much he's having to take care of them. We've gotten some crumbs here and there, and we've been inching that along slowly but surely, but this episode is where things just come to a complete halt. One of the key characters in this show that we haven't seen that much of is Ilya's dad and how much of a looming presence he has over his decisions and how he's able to be himself. As we see in this show as well, Ilya breaks down multiple times talking about his upbringing and especially how much his dad has been hard on him, how much his upbringing has been hard on him, and how much, of course, Russia isn't very accepting of who he is. But those emotions get even more complicated as we learn that Ilya's dad passed away right before the game between Boston and Montreal, and basically right after that game, immediately heads to Russia. If things were already complicated enough for Ilya, this just adds on top of it, and the next, 20 minutes of this episode are just unbelievable. We already had our suspicions about things, but we learn at the dinner funeral that Ilya's brother is basically completely reliant on Ilya for income and to support his family, both his wife and kid. We learn it in not the most subtle way in the world, but we see how much of just a pure a-hole that Ilya's brother is, basically threatening him with everything. And it seems like too, and I'm not confirming, it feels like Ilya's brother also knows about Ilya's sexuality and kind of holding that over his head as well. I don't think we've gotten confirmation in the show yet about that, but it feels like it. So Ilya's basically paying him off to keep him quiet, to take care of his dad, and to just shoo him away. And it's so sad because Ilya is playing in the NHL, he is playing in North America, that he's not able to actually see his dad that much, wasn't there for his death, which complicates things even more for him. You can see the deserved anger coming out, and also his brother just deserved a few punches. I'm sorry, he's just an a-hole. I hated him. But after this scene, we get Ilya actually coming out completely about the Russian situation to Shane, as Shane calls him and asks what's going on, tries to make him feel better. what I thought was very sweet about this scene is how personal it felt. But then we get into probably my favorite scene of the entire show, as Ilya is just emotionally distraught. He's out walking somewhere in the bitter cold in Russia, finds this quaint little tunnel, and everything is perfect from here on out. Shane and Ilya are calling each other, and what I really thought was sweet is that Shane knew that Ilya was in such a hard point. Ilya expresses how hard English even is for him at this point, with how emotionally incapable he is right now. So Shane does such a sweet thing and asks him to just put his heart out there and say everything he wants to say in Russian so that it's a bit easier for him. Apparently, according to my friend Ali, this wasn't in the book necessarily. We saw Shane's point of view and we got hints to what Ilya ends up saying in this, but this show gives us everything, and I think that was a great decision. Because this rant is just exceptional. It is devastating. It is such a good look into how Ilya is as a person, what his insecurities are, how much the Russian factor of it all has really held him back from being his true self, and how much the pressures of his dad and his brother and everybody that are always on him at all times has just completely destroyed him. It's a very relatable message, even if you're not in that exact position. Just the pressures of life and how much it's mounting on his shoulders. It's just something that is so relatable to pretty much everybody out there, and I thought it was just done perfectly. I mean, it's just the moment where he's looking off into the snow, holding his phone, just holding back tears. It's just perfect. It was a moment of quietness and sincerity that this show has had, but not on this type of level. I was just kind of jaw-dropped the entire time because it is just unbelievable to witness. It is genuinely fantastic stuff, and this is what I wanted to see out of the connection they've started to grow. I wanted to see them actually just dump everything on each other, because it is beautiful when it happens. After that, we do get the playoff series started once Ilya does come back from Russia. I really like the stick taps on the face-off there. I thought that was pretty fun. But we do see a pretty brutal moment as Shane looks back at Ilya as he's skating up the ice. And dude, you've played hockey for like probably 20 years at this point. Why are you looking back for your pass while somebody's coming against you? That's like rule number one, big man. There were some pretty funny jokes I saw online how actual NHL coaches saw that Shane would get cut immediately, and not that far from the truth. But Shane gets a broken collarbone, is just completely out of it, and is out for the rest of the playoffs, which is a brutal blow, but also allows us to focus a bit more on Ilya. And eventually, my boy Scott comes back into the fold. One of the big things we saw as Ilya came to Shane's hospital bed to just send him his condolences was that Shane just opened up and asked him if he wanted to be at his cottage this summer and spend time with him. And we see the reluctantness in Ilya's face and everything, but that kind of fuels the fire for the themes in the last few minutes of this episode. Because after Shane is taken out, we get the focus on Scott Hunter once again, who was just an absolute standout from the great episode of episode 3. But it's for a good reason, because we kind of see Scott's performance in the playoffs and how far New York goes through the lens of both Shane and Ilya. And as we see the finale come through, it really does change everything. Because Scott Hunter leads New York to the cup, it was a devastating scene, because you see all the families of all the players coming onto the ice with Scott just having nobody. But my boy Kip from episode 3 was still hooked from that episode on New York hockey, is there for the championship game, which, dang, he must be rich. Those were really good seats, man. Are you kidding? But Scott finally decides to take that chance that he did not take in episode 3, going out there and waving to Kip, bringing him down to the ice, and kissing him for everyone to see. For one, I am super glad for Kip, because this was really the one thing holding back that relationship, was Scott just not really being comfortable with actually being open in public and taking that step. Well, the step has been taken, hasn't it? I had a feeling this might have been how it would end, but what I liked most about this was that we saw Shane and Ilya's reaction to this happening as they were watching the game in real time and almost immediately freaking out, which, fair. But I thought it was just a great bookend for the episode and a great ending to leave off, because it really does change everything for episode 6 and what we are about to see. Because, I mean, it's called Cottage. It seems like they're going to go to the cottage together. It seems like things are going to open up even more. So I'm pretty fascinated by that. I'm curious to see in episode 6 if we see any major changes societally, if we see that maybe be tackled a bit in this episode, because it might be interesting to see, yeah, what if an actual NHL player did come out like Scott Hunter did? What would be the ramifications? And I think that could be very interesting to explore, which I'm sure we will get. But episode 5, I think, was just great television from beginning to end. Focusing on the storylines and focusing on the character progression was such a smart move at this stage in the show's season, and really makes me excited for what we're going to see in episode 6 with that finale. But that's my review of episode 5 of Heated Rivalry. Just an absolute classic from beginning to end. I really enjoyed it, and I just continue to enjoy this show. Sue me. But let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts were on this episode. Was it a thumbs up, a thumbs down for you? And what do you think will happen in episode 6? I'm very curious. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell if you guys enjoyed today's breakdown and want to see more hockey videos just like this on hockey and Heated Rivalry potentially in the future. And if you guys want some more videos as well, you guys can become a member today by hitting the join button next to the subscribe button or hitting the link in the description down below. And for a couple bucks a month, you guys get exclusive videos every single week on top of exclusive member polls to be a part of and exclusive emojis to use in the comments down below too. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.